Hi, we've been learning how to draw human figures in art class, and today we're going to try to draw some of the figures done by the artist Keith Haring. So I want to try to do a couple of those figures here on this page and maybe think about a story that could be happening between those characters. I'm going to start by drawing his figure of the person right here that has a dog's head. His dog is very well known, but this one is a little lesser well known, but it's great because it has arms that bend at the elbows just like ours and legs that bend at the knees just like ours, but then the head is kind of like a dog. So let's give it a try. I'm going to start by drawing down the back and then thinking about where our leg starts to bend at. So I know it bends at the knee and there's a bend at the ankle. So I'm going to add in those bends. And then when I look at the other leg, it looks like his other leg is sticking out, like he's trying to run forward. So again, I think about where our leg bends, that it bends at the knee and at the ankle, and then come around and I'm trying to create shapes that have space in them. Not shapes or straight lines that would be very thin shapes, but where we could color inside of our man in just a moment. Now see, both of those arms are bent down kind of like the letter V. And then at the end of both of those arms, he has just a small oval that's supposed to be his hand. So like our mannequin figure only has an oval for a hand, you could do the same thing with these figures. Just put in an oval for the hand. Now this guy has got a big rectangle here for the bottom of his mouth and a rectangle for the top of the mouth. That's the way Keith Haring designed him. And then a couple triangles for ears. So I like the way that turned out. I always encourage people, if you make a mistake, try to make your mistake part of your art. So your dog might be a little bit taller or his head might be shaped a little bit differently, and that's fine. The next figure I'm going to try to do right here is the actual dog. And let's see if I can think about rectangles and triangles for his shapes. So right here beside the other guy, let's add in our dog. And maybe this dog, I don't know, maybe he's barking at the man with the head of the dog. I'm trying to start thinking about the story in my art. So I see he has a couple of rectangle legs and a couple more rectangle legs. And just like this guy, his mouth is shaped like a big rectangle. I'm going to turn it up some so it looks like he's barking, or I don't know, maybe they're singing the same song. Maybe that's it. Maybe they're not barking at each other. So there's another one of Keith Haring's famous figures, the dog that's pictured right here. Let me see if I can add in one more. And you're welcome to draw any of those. Those are just a few that I'm trying to draw today. I think next I'm going to try to draw, this guy that's got the head of a flower. But I'm going to think about him being turned the other way. So maybe he's facing this guy right here with the dog type head. So let's think about where his back bends. He comes down and where his knee starts. And then he's got this leg sticking out like he is dancing. And it comes up to this arm that he's kind of got out and waving down. And he's got this other arm sticking up. And then he's pretty funny because he has this long neck that comes around, and then he has the head of a flower. It looks like that flower has 6 petals on it. So let me think about curving in. And you might not have 6 petals. You might only have 5 petals. That's okay. Or you might have 7 petals. That's okay too. Depends on what kind of flower it is, right? How many petals it might have on it. And he doesn't have an eye, but he does have a dot right there in the middle. So guys, some other fun things that Keith Haring did with his art are some different kind of backgrounds. So I'm going to think about my background here. I don't want to leave those guys hanging like they're floating in space, but let's take a quick look at some of Keith Haring's really cool backgrounds. Let me put those over here on the side so you can see them a little bit. So that background's got lots of people drawn in it. Let's go see a couple of others. So some of his backgrounds have these little lines. He called those radiating lines. So they might look kind of like this. They might show that, oh, these dogs are barking, they're singing, or they might show that the figures are moving. Like if you see lines like that around their feet, he's jumping or he's kicking. And sometimes you see lines coming off of their heads some, like they're talking. So these are like dancing lines I'm doing right now, trying to show movement in our art. So sometimes Keith Haring might have done some water under some of his figures. I'm going to do something that looks kind of like where the ground is. So I'm doing this one strong line that goes all the way across my drawing. It does not go through my figures, but I'm just trying to show where the ground is. And then like you can see in this picture right here, sometimes he does dots on the ground. So I'm going to add some dots in on my ground. They might be flowers. They might be rocks. It's up to you really. But they're going to give me some place to add color and give some interest to my drawing. And then same thing in the background. I might have waves or something kind of like a rainbow going on in the background. I'm going to do this. I'm just going to add in some big curvy lines to break up my drawing. Oh, maybe that's supposed to be a mountain, or maybe it's a wave. But I know it can give me two places for two different colors in my background. I know some people were still looking at Keith Haring's figures, so let me bring those back, and I'm going to work on adding in some color to my art real quick. Now hopefully you saw from what I just showed you, a lot of Keith Haring's figures were really just one solid, bright, bold color. He picked colors that he hoped would make people very, very happy. Now I have to be careful when I color. I'm trying not to touch my black crayon, because if I touch my black crayon, sometimes it will smear into the bright color that I'm using. So I'm trying to be really careful not to touch it. Also, sometimes I try to keep coloring in the same direction. When I color something, it makes it look little bit more smooth and even. So I'm trying to do that right now with these guys. Color in the same direction. Now you might only have one of Keith Haring's figures on your paper and you did it really big and really good. That is okay if you only have one character. I just drew mine so that I could show you guys how to draw 3 different characters by the artist Keith Haring, and how I could put them together kind of like they're interacting with one another, or there's a story that maybe they are trying to tell us through their positions with each other. Okay. I do want you to think about having full color in your drawing though, not leaving any space uncovered. Anytime you're creating a work of art, you should think about space. How have you used all of your space? Do you have balance or symmetry in your work? See, in this case, my picture doesn't show symmetry. It's not the same on both sides, but it does show balance because I have a large figure on both sides. So I'm definitely trying to use all of my space, not leave one half of my paper empty. All the way down to the bottom and use that space. I can't wait to see how your Keith Haring figure drawing turns out.